A Vermont residential purchase agreement is an essential document when buying or selling a home. Legally binding once signed by the buyer and the seller, it outlines the agreed upon terms and conditions, such as the purchase price, financing information, expiration date, and more. In this video, we'll cover how a residential purchase agreement works, legal requirements in Vermont, and what you'll need to create one. eForms, the biggest online database for legal documents. Watch to the end of this video to find a link to an official residential purchase agreement specific to Vermont. First, let's review. How does a residential purchase agreement exactly work? The residential purchase agreement initially acts as a written offer from a prospective buyer to the seller of a house. It states how much the buyer is willing to pay for it, how the purchase will be financed, what contingencies must be met before closing the deal, and more. It may take some negotiation between the buyer and the seller to agree on all parts of the contract. Once an agreement is met, both parties sign the document, making it legally binding. So, what are the legal requirements in Vermont? Vermont is a buyer beware state, meaning that there are no laws requiring sellers to disclose information regarding material defects on the property. This means that the buyer is fully responsible for conducting any inspections prior to making the purchase. There are, however, a few exceptions. Under state law, if the seller sells their home using the services of a licensed agent, the agent must provide the buyer with a property disclosure statement that reports any material defects affecting the condition of the property. In addition, under federal law, the seller is required to disclose the property's history of lead-based paint exposure if the home was built before 1978. Now that we know more about how a residential purchase agreement works and what's legally required, here are some things that you should do to make sure the process goes smoothly. Include a mortgage pre-approval letter. A mortgage pre-approval letter is a document from a bank estimating how much it's willing to lend a buyer based on the buyer's credit history, income, debts, and assets. This helps the seller determine whether the buyer is financially credible. Offer an earnest money deposit. An earnest money deposit is a percentage of the offer and provided to the seller ahead of time as a show of good faith. It is written into the residential purchase agreement and typically delivered when the agreement is signed. Use an addendum to modify or add to the agreement. An addendum is often included with a residential purchase agreement to add to or amend any terms and conditions, while leaving the rest of the original agreement intact. It can also detail a contingency which allows either party to opt out of the contract if certain terms are not met. If you are in need of an official Vermont residential purchase agreement, you can get started by clicking the link right here. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more videos that help to simplify the legal process for other business and real estate topics.